Everyone, this is Spazzywigs, and while I'm working on another video, that specific video being working on right now, we decided to do some Let's Read of Spyro the Dragon fanfictions, and particularly one of my favorite Spyro villains is Ripto, and so I've looked it up. There's only 13, but apparently there's a series called To Borrow a Scepter, and we decided to read that. To Borrow a Scepter, by the What If writer. It is a one-shot, with Spyro and the others gone on vacation. An associate of theirs is left with deadly task of asking Ripto for a favor. Fury-filled consequences ensue. I didn't read that directly, but that was kind of the problem. To Borrow a Scepter, by the What If writer, features my OC Jacques, as he tries to ask a favor of Ripto. Sets some time after Ripto's rage in my fic Unnatural Magic. Aw, damn it, there's another thing we have to read.
It's a one-shot.
To Borrow a Scepter. One does not simply ask Ripto for a lend of his weapon. One does not simply go through Mordor.
That's right. Just a welcome.
The younger dinosaur wasn't one of the main aspects that mattered in the Elder's defeat. Had these chain of events been a story or game, one would refer to the red hatchling as a mere bystander that chipped in now and then. A helping hand to a small extent who stood back as the hero strode into battle. That hero being a certain dragon of the purple variety. I wonder who that is.
Don't know.
Since meeting Spyro, Jacques the dinosaur has found himself mixed into a few of his adventures. Thus he clashed now and then with some of his enemies, the worst being an ironically small but temper-fueled dinosaur that happened to have the same magical qualities about him. And I wonder who that certain character is. The fact that both dinosaurs were small and magically inclined would have many thinking the two would get along. However, Jack found it was quite the opposite. Being associated with Spyro and aiding him even to the smallest extent was enough to get you into Ripto's to-kill list. Oh, looks like there's a shit list Ripto has.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised.
Ripto has a shit list. Right. I am happy.
Yes. All dragons. Money bags. Jack.
I like how you mentioned money bags because of all the money bags abuse.
Just throws him out of everything. Yeah.
At first, Jack hadn't known why the Elder despised him so much, but after getting used to his hatred of dragons and his lesser bond with magic, he guessed that there were a few things that made him clash. Whilst Ripto, though his powers were considered meager, actually knew how to control them and had a way of doing so to match, Jacques, on the other hand, could rarely control more than a few fire blasts or simple spells without almost blowing himself to bits. Jesus Christ, I like Jacques already. He seems like a more tolerable version of Ripto, if you think about it.
Yeah, essentially.
It was the fact that Elder Reptile never let him forget. Aw, shit. Really?
Haha, you can't magic like me.
But today was another type of day. The one that comes completely out of the norm, or at least that's how it felt. Today, his sort of friends, Spyro and the gang, who could also be called allies or associates more than close buddies, were out on vacation, leaving the very small dinosaur to deal with the problem. That being some mischievous imps in Avalor had cursed the lake, and so no one could swim, drink, or even pass without getting mauled by some form of water animal conjured from menacing H2O. Oh my god!
God, drown me.
Jesus Christ!
Here.
What? That could have been a Spyro level! That is amazing!
It could, yeah, it would have been kind of awesome.
But to get rid of this enchantment, Jacques would need to harness his magical abilities. He had a spellbook, but here was the predicament. Jacques had no way of channeling his magic to control and direct it accurately. Thus, he was simply stuck. He needed to find some kind of wand or scepter. But who had such an object? He could only think of one. Hey, there was a game! Or there was a level with mages and warlocks having a battle. You could have just asked them!
Yeah, just go to that place. Hey, can I borrow one of your magic weapons?
Ah, Jesus.
No, just go to the dangerous guy, that's fine.
The Chateau of Ripto is impressive considering its owner and inhabitant. Large and spaced out with a hint of luxury and superiority to it. Blood red and pinkish color schemes and drapes, fiery lanterns and pedestals. Lots of fancy carpets to boot. Wow, Ripto's pimped out.
Yeah, that's right.
Ripto had fallen fast asleep on his throne, his gleaming scepter glinting almost as sleepily as himself. It appears that he dozed off not long ago, as the chair didn't look like somewhere you'd want to have a nap. At least, not in the smaller dinosaur's opinion. Oh, come on. Yeah, they're tiny.
Yeah, you can sleep anywhere.
Yeah. The boy in question peered from behind a statue of the reptile of some kind, large eyes flickering back and forth in case of itty-watering minions. There was no one in sight. He adjusted his large satchel so it sat against his side and carefully began tiptoeing towards the throne where the elder was snoozing. This would be a lot easier if Ripto wasn't actually holding his weapon in his sleep, but then again, he could be awake. Jacques grimaced silently. As hilarious as the wizard could be, the boy certainly didn't want to face his magic and his temper on his own. Jesus Christ! I think he needs to watch a Let's Play of Spyro 2. I mean, that would be fun for him to, like, figure out how to defeat Ripto by himself.
Yeah. Because you can do it, maybe.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah. He had such slinked to the side of the throne when Ripto frowned in his sleep, turning slightly in his chair before growing still again, grumbling something about pain-filled vengeance in his slumber. Jesus Christ. I keep on forgetting how much of a car cat Ripto is in real time.
That's about right.
Difference is...
Car cat cares more than Ripto. Sorry, Ripto.
Actually, I was about to say, car cat curses more than Ripto.
That is definitely true.
No, oh yeah. Jacques breathed out slowly and sidestepped closer, and very cautiously, he reached out to pluck the scepter from the villain's hand. It was the second that Ripto's pale green-tinted eyes snapped open. Oh, shit! Oh, God!
Yes.
Oh, God, I almost fell out of my chair!
Oh, God.
Oh!
That's pretty scary.
This is like the Leroy Jenkins moments.
It's like, I'm gonna get that scepter. Oh, God.
In the millisecond between seeing his eyes crap open and the elder's gaze focused, Jack recoiled and jumped back and quickly held behind the throne, clamping his red hands over his mouth. I can't do Ripto's voice, so bear with me. What the? Ripto's sleep clouded, but undeniably viewers' force sounded. Who's there? Show yourself and I might reconsider letting you live. Jacques cringed behind the throne, not knowing where to laugh or freak out. His heart was pounding with the whole sneak in and steal something approach. Which, by the way, turned out to be a dumb approach, seeing that he woke the shit out of Ripto.
And is now hiding.
Ripto was standing up in his throne, weapon in hand, glaring heatedly around the chateau. Then he slumped back into his seat and drummed his clawed hands in the arm of his throne, scowling. Jacques felt it was a very dumb fly caught in a... Or no, sorry, I need to reread that. Jacques felt like a very dumb fly caught in a web. Maybe he could make a dash for the door and have Ripto get gulped or crushed to stomp on him before he could get out? No, sir. I know someone's out there. The small dinosaur hiding behind his throne flinched, grimacing. Maybe he could. The vague outlines of something like that on a plan flickered in his brain. Jacques nibbled at his lip and shrugged. Well, better than nothing. It was far too quiet, in Ripto's opinion. He couldn't hear Crusher gulp stomping stupidly about the halls, and unbeknownst to him, it was because a certain little red dino had led him off with a cooked chicken wing attached to a string and proceeded to throw it down a pit, in which the two less intelligent beings have gleefully leapt. Ah, Jesus.
Dang.
Jesus!
Yeah.
Seconds before he was about to yell again, a small, slightly higher-than-normal voice chirped somewhere at his side. Hi! His eyes widened and he turned, leaned slightly to get a better look off the perpetrator, finding out it was one of the purple dragon's most annoying little helpers. I thought that was Hunter! Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Well, I don't hate Hunter, but that's what I was thinking.
He is rather irritating at times.
His surprised expression hardened to a menacing, narrow-eyed glare. Jacques offered a very nervous grin. The older dinosaur snarled and clenched his fist, grip tightened in his scepter. You! Hiya, Ripto! Jack shuffled around to face the glaring wizard, taking careful steps away and placing his hand behind his back. How's evil doing, Ben? How's it been? Ripto repeated, his voice low and dangerous like a rumbling volcano. His voice grew higher, almost as if he was considering something. Jack cringed noticeably. Here it comes. How has it been? Oh, it's been infuriating! Yeah, sorry about my Ripto voice. I don't have one. Jack jumped back a little at the sheer loudness of Ripto's rage-filled voice. I was about to make a little joke, but I can't. Okay, then. He tried to ignore how the ladder was shaking in fury and went on. I was wondering if, He stopped short when he saw the fireball coming his way. He promptly dived to the left, letting out a high-pitched yip as he rolled along. He lay on his stomach, hands on his head, as he ducked another blast. Ack! Could you just stop trying to kill me for just a... Shut up and stand still! Jesus Christ, Ripto!
I'm just gonna kill you.
Kill another person of your kind!
Yeah, he's too annoying.
It's too annoying. He would have pimp slapped freaking money bags. I mean, what the hecky?
Smacking out of them.
He managed to evade another few blasts until one singled his sleeve. Barely! It spelled barley here, missing the ironically bright red, burnable skin below. His eyes widened to a large extent as he stared down at the burnt fabric on his arm. He did not notice Ripto had stepped down from his chair and pointed the end of the scepter at the boy's forehead. Jack froze, wide-eyed, looking back and forth from the furious Ripto. From the blazing gem on the end of the weapon he came to swipe. I only wanted to ask, Ripto's fierce expression did not falter, but it shifted to a raised brow with a slightly curiosity. What? Jack was silent for a second. Maybe it's best I not ask, he asked nervously, only for it to halt when Ripto jabbed the blazing weapon closer. What are you blabbering about? Actually, it's babbling, but Jesus Christ, I can't read. But it's still good enough, I mean. Yeah. Out with it! Jack jumped back to a final time and hid behind his arms in hopes to avoid death. Can I borrow your scepter? He said in a rush. Ripto's eyes whitened and his mouth fell open, replaying what the little pest had said in his mind over and over. What? His voice sounded flabbergasted, as if possibly less angry. So Jack tried again, fiddling with his fingers. Can I borrow your scepter for a teeny while? Ripto simply stared down at him for a while, looking beyond bemused. Then his eyes narrowed again, and his fists shook in rage. Ooh, he drawled, lifting his scepter even so subtly to where it had hung from his fingers. So, you think you can waltz in here to my domain, into my chateau, and simply ask to borrow what is mine? He brandished the weapon in question in front of the red-skinned hatchling before him. Jack bit his lip. I'll give it right back after, I promise. Despite the little add-in, Ripto simply scowled and continued his angry rant. And let's not forget how annoying and pesky you've been, helping that despicable purple dragon foil my plans. He spat his last words with a vengeance. Jack began backing away. Yeah, here he said he instead of his. Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit bothered by that, but yeah, I guess it was a typo, so I shouldn't be fine. Okay, I guess I'll just, leave, he added on a nervous laugh at the end of the sentence, only to give a loud gulp when he saw Ripto smile slyly. Ah, Jesus, when Ripto's smiling, it's not good.
No.
It also includes glitching.
His lip clips through his eye.
Jesus Christ! Alright, back to the story.
Yes.
Okay. Alright, no. Oh, I don't think so, my boy. I don't think I'll let you leave in one piece. Jack, or Jap in this paragraph, ducked instantly as Ripto fired another fiery blast at him, and the smaller dinosaur decided now was time to retreat. He stumbled back and fled, only to have to jump to the side as another attack followed him. Grrrg! Didn't I tell you to stay still, hatchling? Jack knew he would have had to resort to extreme measures. This goes for extreme measures!
Yeah.
Standing up, he gathered his own fiery blast in his hands, and though it wasn't much, it was all he could conjure under control. He threw it towards the throne, causing the other dinosaur to have to leap to the side. His throne flew back, bouncing off the wall and flying past his head. Ripto slammed onto his side, looking extremely comical that he had to laugh. Dude, that's a bad idea to laugh at Ripto.
Yeah.
He will tear you a new one!
Yeah. He'll.
Didn't dodge another fireball, of course. The commotion must have attracted the slow attention of Gulp and Crush, for a minute later they both crashed through the very large, heavy doors. Jack's eyes widened, and then he saw the larger of the two heads right towards the fallen throne. Dangerously as level with his humongous feet, he gasped. Gulp tripped over the throne and, almost in slow motion, threw right towards the unsuspecting Ripto. Just as his employer had got to his feet, dusted himself and raised his scepter, the large grey brute landed smack on top of him. Ripto vanished from sight beneath the masses of imbeciles. They didn't pluralize imbecile, I'm kind of meh.
Yeah, and also
But his furious voice could still be heard in a muffled tone. Gulp, you moron! The scepter, having flown from his hand as he was flattened, spiraled through the air and landed right in the palm of the little red dinosaur he'd been trying to fry. His hand.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Well, right in the palm a little. Yeah. It's fine.
Jack grinned widely, glanced once back at the confused Gulp and bewildered Crush, then quickly turned and darted from the chateau. As he raced out the room, he could still hear Richter's muffled ranting even as he hurried down the hallway with the borrowed weapon in tow. You buffoon! Get off me! Then after a few growls of fury, Hatchling! Jack kept running, though a cheeky sort of grin made its way onto his face. He knew he'd regret this later, especially when he had to return the scepter like he promised. If he returned it, that is.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh my god, I like the premise of it. Another Ripto.
Yeah.
And this
just a less experienced one, yeah.
A less experienced... Well, actually, Jock is more than just a Ripto. I mean...
Yeah, he's a different sort of guy. Because he's not a jerk, first.
I think he's more like Sai Sawanaguchi from Magic Users Club.
Yeah.
Except Sai never killed herself with any of her magic attacks.
True, but in the same level of skill. Or want to learn. And stuff.
Yeah, that would be it.
Adorable. Yeah. And apparently it's a lot of power.
Anyway, I'll take a break by looking at a text that my friend has told me. It's mostly about D&D, so it should be okay.
Hooray. I'm not entertaining the masses.
Oh, don't worry. We have yet to read the sequel.
That's right.
Alright, break time. It's now to watch To Return a Scepter.
Yeah.
By the same creator, the What If writer.
Right.
To Return a Scepter by the What If writer. A one-shot, sequel fic to the Borrow a Scepter, which we just read.
Yes.
As Ripto's search for his scepter becomes a little too destructive to Avalar, a certain scepter swiper must return as promised. That is, if he could sneak up past Gulp and Crush on the way, and avoid being fired. To return the scepter. Sequel one-shot to Borrow a Scepter. If you haven't read that, I suggest you do to avoid confusion. Jacques belongs to me. And as for the spelling of scepter, it can be spelled both scepter and scepter, depending where you're from. Actually, that's a pretty good point.
Yeah, R-E or E-R.
Then again, I've been doing the same kind of bull with theater, so I won't...
A lot of people do.
Yeah,
it's
so...
perfectly okay. It's just culture.
To return a scepter. We've all experienced that awkward feeling one gets when they know they've caused something but nobody suspects them. Hacking into magical portals aren't a hard thing to do, and as of late, even slow-minded creatures such as ripdocs and lumbering dinosaurs could find their way into peaceful realms such as Avalar, given the right pointing finger. And that finger belonged to the universe's shortest and most ironically fierce villain, Ripto. I like how they referenced Enter the Dragonfly, Ripto's race.
Yeah.
Even though I hated Enter the Dragonfly, it kind of damaged my favorite villain.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna let that go for now.
I regret playing it, even briefly.
Lately, Avalar had been slightly tramped by the diminutive Orange Menace's minions. I like how they said that he was red earlier. He's a red orange. He's a blood orange.
Blood
orange. But then fashion designers will bitch at me when I say that, and they'll be like, "It's fucking red, you stupid bitch."
I feel like that's just, I don't know, man. So, if you're a fashion designer, you know of a lot of colors. Therefore, you should try to match. If they don't like the red that you give them, I don't know. It's part of your job to find good colors. It's shouldn't bitch at them. Gosh. I don't know. Maybe she was being really, really intolerant. I don't know. I'm done.
Alright, sorry. We need to go back to this.
Sorry.
Lately, Avalar has been slightly trapped by the diminutive Orange Menace's minions, with them looking under rocks, trees, and in houses, and other ridiculous locations.
The sky.
For something that the dinosaurs seemingly found of value. Spyro is off in the Dragon Realms on vacation, not to the surprise of the Avalar's residents, leaving the Professor, Hunter, and Allura to wonder what the demented reptile was looking for. Oh god, that was funny. Yeah. Little did they know the answer had snuck away from the conversation moments ago, and was now wandering through the forest, set on finding a portal to travel to a place where he'd hopefully get Ripto to cut it out. And now we can introduce back to our favorite, not Ripto, Jacques.
He's cool.
Yeah, if you skipped the first one, Jacques is basically the small dinosaur. Basically, he's another Ripto, except he's not. I think we'll keep on doing that, but if you like to skip around and get to a different part of our Let's Read, then congratulations.
More information.
Jacques knew for certain that not too much damage had been done yet. Ripto wasn't destroying anything but innocent trees and messing up villages looking for his beloved and oh so difficult to replace scepter that had been swept in the Little Red Dinosaur about a week ago. Oh, so all those innocent civilians that Ripto has been destroying was little? Oh my god!
I wouldn't call that little.
The death of the billions! Oh my fucking god!
Possibly, and he's let it go on for a week, dang.
Jesus Christ, Jack!
I thought you needed it for, one thing, not a week's worth of things. Oh well.
Jack! Stop it!
Jeez. I mean, he is trying to stop him, but couldn't you just find him and give it back? I guess he's trying to do so without dying.
Yes.
That's fair.
I mean, we already saw what happened in the first one.
Yeah. He was in his house and he wanted to kill him.
Yes.
Then he wanted to borrow it and he really wanted to kill him. And there you go.
So much death in this series, and the author did not know.
Yes.
Jacques had thought himself very witty indeed when he was able to solve a problem caused by some mischievous creatures cursing the river water, but he had let on about the scepter. A responsible adult would have told the Professor and Allura that he had what Ripto was looking for. But since Jacques was not a wise adult, he decided to just return the thing and hope things would go back to normal. Jacques!
I know you're young, but gosh.
God damn it!
Ask somebody for advice.
You... People are dying!
They're dying! Gosh.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
The little red dinosaur in question trotted through the otherwise empty forest towards one of the older portals. It said the older the portals, but I had to skip that. The scepter slung over one shoulder and glinted in the sunlight. The gold and sparkling gem contrasted greatly with the less than affluent brown traveling clothes. He stopped when he finally reached the portal, staring through the circular arch quietly. He took a deep breath. It's not as if I had done this before. Oh, Ripto will probably be too busy having a hissy fit at Crush and Gulp or something to notice me putting the scepter back. Dumbass!
Hopefully.
Oh my god, I can't believe I'm cursing. I realized that this was a K+ rating, and I'm cursing like a sailor, like it's an M-rated one, like The Best for the Best by Taito Fan.
Taito Fan.
Fuck it, I hate that fanfiction.
It's okay.
Jack rubbed the back of his head and nibbled at his lip. He thought about leaving the scepter on the ground outside Ripto's lair, or even throwing it through the portal to said place, leaving it at that. But if it rolled under a rock or fell into lava, Jack was pretty sure he'd get into more trouble than he already would be when Alora and the professor discovered his little sneak into Ripto's lair scheme. Which, by the way, was the worst. Jack, stop it. Just find him and just sneak it into his cape or something.
Yeah.
Like what happened in our season Jewel of Life, where the staff with the Jewel of Life was somehow trapped in Jesse's top.
Yes. Oh, that's true.
So with another sigh, Jack placed the... Oh, wait. Oh, I was there. He was sure they would eventually, but perhaps it would be a little better if he resolved the problem before they did. So with another sigh, Jack placed the scepter down and rubbed his hands together. As he did, a sparkly blue light appeared out of his palms, and a moment later, he threw it towards the empty ark. It burst all around the stone outline like a firework, and a blue, sparkly portal materialized in front of the small dinosaur. With a small, slightly nervous but otherwise exciting grin, he bent down and scooped the scepter up before hopping into the portal. You didn't need to be told how angry Ripto was. The mere atmosphere on his domain was tense, as if the very air was dreading the small sorcerer's next furious rant. And they also reference Ripdocs again! Ripdocs and Dinosaur wander around the chateau, but they were too busy with their patrols and worrying about Ripto's rage increasing that they didn't notice the undersized Jack tiptoeing inside. It wasn't getting in that was the problem. It was getting through the halls and up the lavish throne room where Ripto usually resided. I like how they referenced the fact that Ripto is already, like, hiring people and doing stuff, like, Yeah. No, stop it. Stop it. I liked it better with Spyro 2, where he only had 2 minions.
Yeah, instead of, like, an army of anything.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Jack eyed the staircase before him with a wide-eyed expression. Had they been here the last time he'd visited, he tilted his head through... He thought for a moment, then shrugged. It didn't really matter. A few stairs didn't hurt anyone. Well, except people that are blind, but...
Yeah, God.
So he began tiptoeing as quietly as he could up the stone stairs, glancing at the creepy torches hung on the walls at either side. He grimaced at them and continued his tiptoeing until he reached the 3/4 up, where another hall awaited at the top. He jumped as he heard Ripto's voice bellowing faintly from a floor above the two. He cringed as the tone sharpened if possible. Whatever it was being said, whoever it was, Jacques was glad it wasn't directed at him. Boy, he really wanted his scepter back, he murmured to himself. Maybe I should have returned it earlier. Then we would have less of a death toll.
Yeah, innocent trees being obliterated.
Well,
and people dying.
People die when they are killed of blood loss.
And when you die of blood loss, it means you die.
Oh God, that was a stupid Kill a Killer reference, but
very sorry.
We are very sorry.
And that other animal.
I think it was Fate Stay Night, but...
No, it was Fate Stay.
Alright. A few halls and flights of stairs later, Jacques poked his head around the corner and gazed down the familiar corridor outside of Ripto's throne room. He raised a paw on his chin and taped thoughtfully for a moment, listening hard. Strange, no shouting. As if on cue, Crush and Gulp crashed through the double doors at a few feet away, the larger of the two rolling on his side. Their tails They spelled tails wrong, by the way.
Yeah.
Between their legs, and
It's
large
awful.
beast cowered as Ripto's voice, now completely uncovered, pierced the air like a knife. Jesus Christ!
Heck yeah.
I think that would have given my friend an anxiety attack.
Well, that's true.
Anyway, Jack jumped back around the corner and pressed himself against the wall. Get out of my sight, you miserable buffoons! And don't come back until you've found my scepter! If you crawl back here without it, I personally will make sure you're thrown into a bee-filled briar patch with lava beneath it!
Dang.
Jesus.
That's not pleasant.
Jack couldn't help but feel a spark of sympathy for the two goons, but it faltered when he heard the double door slam shut, followed by the heavy, ground-shaking footsteps of the two coming his way. He gave a shrill sound, somewhere between a squawk and a yelp. Stumbling back and darted down the corridor between they turned the corner. He took a left into yet another hallway, buying himself another 10 seconds before he was spotted. Jacques' head jerked frantically from the side to side, taking a cleaning cart nearby. And some purple curtains! His eyes froze on the purple drapes, then white as they moved back to the cart. Crush and Gulp turned the corner as they exchanged nervous, dim-witted looks with each other after their boss's scolding. Looked forward and halted in surprise when they spotted a familiar red dinosaur child standing beside a curtainless window. Jacques, you're not a good spy! They gasped at each other for a few seconds. Jacques could see their slow brains working. And Crush pointed at him suddenly in alarm, finally recognized him as a foe. Or, if you're an Etrian, F-O-E! But just as he raised his club, Jacques jumped back and waved his hands. Wait! He held his palms towards them, and miraculously the two halted, looking confused. Jack breathed out shakily, stepping back and grinned sheepishly. You guys know Ripto hates Spyro more, right? When he recited blank looks. He raised his hand and continued. You know, purple dragon, fire breather. The two of them nodded slowly. So, wouldn't it be better if you crushed Spyro instead of me? I mean, what if you found out Spyro got away because you were too busy crushing me? The gears that made up their small brains appeared to be turning over time. Then they exchanged worried looks with each other at the idea of another scolding and shook their heads quickly. Jack quinned wildly, Well, that's swelling. Oh my gosh, he's over there! He jumped back theoretically and pointed at a purple thing nearby. Instantly, the two giants leapt towards it with dim-witted roars. Jesus Christ.
It's purple. It must be him.
Yes, that's exactly what they must be thinking.
Good.
Jacques sidestepped away from them as the brawl went on. Neither one of the henchmen figured out they were in fact attacking a cleaning cart with a purple curtain thrown over it, and the only thing hitting them, or being hit, was each other. He slipped around the corner and darted the rest of the way into the Ripto's throne room, feeling giddy with nervousness and excitement. He hadn't thought it would work, but he was doing well so far. Jacques stopped outside of Ripto's throne room as he pressed the side of his head against the wood in a listening cart. But he heard nothing. Then, as careful as possible, opened one of the heavy doors, just enough for him to slip through. Ripto was nowhere in sight. Jacques frowned as he looked around again, but it didn't find him. Maybe he stormed off down the other hall as he was getting rid of Crush and Gulp? Ah, well. Yes, because apparently after you didn't do all the skill points that you get, you don't get to see what happens, what really happened with them. But I guess it would make sense because Ripto teamed up with Nasty Nork in Year of the Dragon, or they should have done that, but no! Enter the Dragonfly! Fuck that game!
Yeah.
I actually, yeah.
I played a little bit.
I'm an elementary school man.
Yeah.
He stepped inside and let the heavy door slide shut behind him, flinching a little at the noise it made. Then, holding the scepter that he couldn't believe that Gulp and Crush hadn't spotted, even if it was hidden behind his back, and trod towards Ripto's throne. He couldn't help but giggle a little at the memory of this chair, that had resulted in tripping up Gulp and the latter falling on top of Ripto. He crept as quietly as a mouse, it said mouth, over to the throne, settled in the center of the lavish throne room. He placed the scepter on the arms of the chair like it was an ornament of sorts. He smiled happily to himself in accomplishment and turned on his heel. Thud! He slammed against someone's stomach and his eyes flickered upward in alarm. When they did, his heart almost stopped. Excuse me, I almost had a freak-out attack. Ripto's icy green irises bore down on him like a fiery spotlights. His face fixed in a furious snarl. Jack, or Jaw, gave a tiny, barely audible, nervous laugh. Hiya, Ripto. Ripto growled and seized the wide-eyed dinosaur by the front of his shirt and jerked him forward, his feet dangling in the air but not quite at eye level. Wide blue eyes were centimeters away from raging green. You are dead! Jack, without hesitation, reached back and managed to snatch the scepter bag from where he'd set it down on the throne, and then hit the older dinosaur over the head with it. Ow! Jesus, it's really hard to do his voice.
Yeah, it's very scraggly.
Yeah.
Scratchy.
And my throat kind of hurts after doing that.
Oh. Yeah.
Jack dropped on the floor and scampered back a few steps, looking past Ripto to the door. Crush and Gulp could be back at any moment, and I'm gonna censor that because Enter the Dragonfly, Minions! Instead of Ripdocs, because,
Minions!
Ooh, dear. Ripto had recovered quickly, rubbing his sore head furiously as he glared at the insolent hatchling a few feet away. A few of his other minions burst through the door clutching weapons. And upon seeing them, the boy scampered backwards, still clutching the scepter. He dived behind one of the reptilian statues, and as a spear zipped past his head, yelping loudly. Ripto held out a hand to his minions, breathing hard to try and calm himself down. Wow, I read that for a moment there, and I'm like, Jesus. Glaring daggers at the hatchlings appeared around the statue. He forced a smile, holding out a hand. Now, be a good boy and give that back to me. He leaned back a little, his grin becoming more real as he added in a mocking tone, I promise not to fry you. I believe that when Gulp is accepted into college, Jack remarked slowly, looking around frantically for a form of escape. You know, Gulp has 4 legs. I know it's kind of stupid because I shouldn't be rude to quadrupeds.
Well,
but usually bipedals are accepted into college.
A college is a stereotypically human
Yes.
area, so I suppose it would be.
So, yeah. That's harder to believe than it actually sounds.
Yeah.
Considering we've actually played the games.
Unless there's some kind of, like, dragon college, which there's not.
Ripto rolled his eyes, snorting. Ha ha. Now, unless you want to die slowly and painfully, I suggest you hand me my scepter now. No can do. Dude, wasn't your quest to return the freaking scepter in the first place? I mean, Jesus Christ, why are you resisting now?
I'm not sure. I think he's just too scared he's gonna die. But why resist? Why don't you? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ripto blinked a few times before scaling. With an enraged growl, he turned to his minions. Get the scepter! Once again, because I had to remove Ripdocs from that sentence, because it makes me think of Enter the Dragonfly. Jack had no choice but to sprint away from the statue's cover as dozens of sharp objects were thrown at him. It said where, but it should be were.
Yeah.
He rolled away from a spear, still holding on to the scepter. He stumbled onto his feet, and as the minions charged towards him, he heaved the scepter above his head and gave it a single desperate wave. Zap! A shot of red lightning burst through the gem and shocked the unsuspected group of Ripdocs. Well, they lowercased it, so it was harder for me to censor that. Damn. Who hovered in the air for a few seconds, surrounding the buzzing red light before collapsing on the floor with a disoriented pile. Jack blinked at them, having not expected such a charge, but glad for it anyway. Ripto stared at his slightly fried minions, wide a flabbergasted expression I think he wore a flabbergasted expression, but whatever, before turning around and locking gazes with the boy. His eyes were narrowed dangerously, and anyone worth their salt could tell he was done playing around. "I've about had it with you, hatchling." With that, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something round, black, and shiny. Jack's eyes widened as he realized what it was. "Moneybags will take anyone with gems as a customer," Ripto commented with a degree of smugness, pulling out a match and wasting no time in lighting the bomb. "Oh, Jesus! That was a total nod to Winter Tundra! I love it!"
Yes.
Jack bit his lip and readied the stolen scepter, and just as Ripto threw the bomb towards him, the doors bursted open and crushing gulp thundered in. Ripto growled irritably, and Jack stared nervously at the smoking bomb at his feet. He reached down and picked it up. Same moment, Crush held out the tangled purple curtain and cleaning cart from forward like some sort of trophy, and he and his fellow henchmen grinned proudly. Ripto stared at them in irritated astonishment at their stupidity. Then he slowly turned to glare at the boy a little away from him with a narrow gaze. Jack grinned sheepishly. Then he threw the bomb back at the angry Ripto and waved the scepter again, and at the smoking bomb landed between the orange dinosaur and his two daft goons. It exploded, covering all three of them in smoke. With a wave of the scepter, a tiny portal appeared beside Jack, and he shakily ran towards it. But didn't hesitate to look behind him and wave cheerily at the growling Ripto. He tossed the scepter back at him, causing the elder to stumble back as he caught him. "Bye, Ripto!" Jack called before hopping into the portal. "Thanks for the scepter!" And as the portal closed and the chateau faded to view, Jack heard Ripto roaring after him. "You little pest! You'll pay for this!" Jack landed softly on the grass of Summer Forest in a nice little spot by the pond. He lay on his back for a while, letting off a long, shaky breath. That could have gone worse. Ahem! His eyes widened as he looked to the right and saw Laura standing nearby, frowning with her arms crossed. The professor held a similar look. Jack gulped. Guess he had a bit of explaining to do. Oh my god.
Oh man.
Returning the scepter was even worse than to borrow a scepter. Not in a bad way, but more in the sense that there was more typos in that one. Like it seemed that this creator rushed the ending to return a scepter. It's kind of sad because it wasn't that bad of a series, considering that we've read The Best for the Best by Taito Fan. I love this series more than that, despite the amount of typos it has.
Yeah.
Because everyone's in character.
Yeah.
Then again, Ripto. Awkward childhood crush.
Yeah.
Those were the 3 words I'll give you that would describe Ripto for me as a kid.
Oh, that's adorable.
It is adorable, but think about it. It kind of makes 0 sense if you actually played the game.
Well, yeah, that's true. It really doesn't. But it's adorable. In a scary kind of way.
It's a good thing I got over that. I mean, otherwise it would have been like those people that fangirl over Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Well, I don't know. Frollo is creepy. Creepy with Ripto. Ripto is just hateful, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah.
Frollo is like, oh, I'm a perfectly good person. Also, I have great...
Yeah, at least Ripto admits he's evil. I mean,
exactly.
yeah.
Frollo's a good villain.
That's why I like a lot of villains that were made in the Spyro series. They at least admit that they were evil.
Right.
Though, then again...
And just do what they want.
Yeah.
It's rather villainous. That's good.
Maybe we could read another by the What If writer?
Awesome.
This one's called Lack of Magic. This is a one-shot, just like the other 2. But this time it adds another character, this time from actually my favorite in the Spyro trilogy, Year of the Dragon's villain. Okay. One shot, not romance. Ripto and the Sorcerers have had a less than civil discussion about the hatred of dragons, failure, and the lack of magic when compared to their flying relatives. And it's an angsting humor. I don't know what the other one was.
Yeah, I got it. Genre.
Not a romance fic. Dear God, no. I agree with you. Even though some of the Ripto X Sorcerers fanfics were actually pretty cute.
Oh, that's cute.
Lack of magic. The canyon's lave sizzled dully in the night. Bright, smoky vapors rising up from smoldering ashes around the bank at the edges of the river like trails of it. The sky above was black and starless, thick clouds blocking any moonlight. A small pterodactyl-like creature scuttled hesitantly around the heated rocks, sniffing at the ground like a greyhound. It screwed its eyes to a narrowed pair of slits and pattered over to a brownish shrub poking out between two rocks. Excuse me, I got a little bit nasally there. Just as its beak touched the withered leaves, something bright and sparkling slammed into the ground beside it. With a squawk of surprise, the creature took off and flew away from it. A growl echoed through the canyon, accompanied by the bubbling lava. Stupid pest. Standing nearby was a decidedly smallish figure clad in purple and white, a red jewel hanging simply from around his neck. Orange skin and clutching a scepter. I would say red-orange, but then he'll shut up and tell me it's orange. A glistening gem glinted in the faint light as he turned, growling with the ferocity of a rhino, and started a little way from the lava banks. There were times when Ripto was so peeved he attacked anything for no real reason. Hence the near barbecued flying runt he'd shot at. Snarling to himself, he turned around again to fire another ball of sparks at a nearby rock. He watched with grim satisfaction as it burst into many pieces, a tiny smidge of his frustration ebbing away. So you're the cause of all this racket. I shouldn't be surprised. A snide, slightly feminine voice sounded behind him. Ripto whirled around, ready to blast whoever it was to pieces until he actually saw who it was. His eyes narrowed, and he lowered his scepter with a slight growl. Yeah, according to this... Yeah, Ripto and Sorceress are both the same species.
Yeah.
Or no, not the same species.
But both.
Same category.
Yeah.
The female dinosaur, quite taller than him, much to his chagrin, bearing a scepter not unlike his own, only he could have sworn it looked like some kind of egg sometimes. Bearing a crown and a daft-looking neck piece over his blue scales, scowled down at him. Her arms were folded. They spelt it where in that one. And she was flanked by two brown rhino-like henchmen at her side. Ripto had met the sorceress more times than he'd like. First time being after her own defeat when he rammed into her while turning a corner. She despised his ill manners ever since. How the two hadn't killed each other yet was a mystery. I'd appreciate it if the places near my dwellings were occupied by your temperamental tantrums, she said, gesturing at him with her scepter. Ripto sneered. You're the one to talk, you bloated toad. Leave me be. He turned away from her and fired at yet another rock, only to miss miserably. He clenched his small fist and fumed at her cackle rang behind him. Oh, what hilarity! Are you sure you wouldn't have made a good jester, Ripto? I like this dynamic in this one. Yeah. It's pretty much better than the one with Jacques and Ripto. Yeah. She spat his name with venom. He glared sadly over his shoulder as she continued. My magic wouldn't have missed so easily, Runt. In fact, you would have had your own toe, he hollered back, pointing a finger at her in fury. Don't get me started on how many times you failed, lady. She snorted indignantly, looking far beyond insulted. How dare you speak to me like that? I'll have you thrown into the lava for that. Ripto stepped back by a little as her minions ever so slightly began shuffling towards him. He scowled and shot a fireball, knocking one of them over. He snarled. At least my idiotic henchmen don't fall over like twigs. There was a silence. The two dinosaur magic users, that's what I mentioned earlier, glaring heated at each other. Finally, the sorceress turned away and huffed, glaring at a nearby rock. Ripto sneered and looked away as well. This is stupid! Anyway, those lousy dragons could blast us both quicker than we could. Even a stupid rat like that purple one could do it better. His grip on his scepter tightened to the point where his orange knuckles turned white. What? What?
Super hard.
What? Oh, thank you for explaining that to me, but that still confuses the shit out of me. I mean...
It probably wouldn't happen with a scaled being, just saying.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Rage boiled within him. Once again, he shot at another rock, exploding it. The sorceress! Jesus Christ! Hedgehog blinked at him in bewilderment. When'd you stop it, Runt? No! She fired a lightning blast at him. Eyes wide, he narrowed, stepped out of the way. The bright light barely missing his nostrils. He glared at the other dinosaur venomously. There was another pause. Then, with a growl, Rutto decided he didn't care who heard his reason for his boiling temper this evening. If she couldn't buzz off, then so be it. He turned his back on her and clenched his fist again, growling. Why is that pesky, meddling, easygoing saps like dragons are the only reptiles capable of performing magic so easily? What makes them so darn special? Another innocent rock exploded. I've had it happen to here with that purple pest. Gah! The hedgehog dived to cover as another blast sounded. The sorceress rubbed her temples almost drearily. With a narrowed gaze, she watched the other dinosaur by the banks, shoulders heaving, panting in rage. Don't get me started. We'll be here for an all wretched night. Shut up! You're just jealous because my magic is stronger than yours, you pompous little ingrate. Your magic is not stronger. Face it, you lack it just as much as me. The blue dinosaur thrust her scepter right between his eyes, nearly knocking him over as she thundered at him. Never compare yourself to me, Runt. I ruled the Forgotten Lands for years while you barely had anything to begin with. They spelled barely as barley.
Barley.
That's only because I'm not lazy like you are, overgrown hog. He muttered this part to himself, looking for the smaller being she didn't hear. Oh shit, I should have whispered that.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fine.
She stormed a few yards away, fiddling with the end of her scepter, glaring fiercely at it. As much as they both would hate to admit it, they were stuck in the same situation. Maybe it was some cruel twist of fate, rather than the blessing that they were capable of magic. That is, only a little. Barley! Barely, any is worse than none at all in these cases. Ripto had worked for years to muster up what magic he had, and was still not much of a match to even a child dragon, the species all dinosaurs despised above all else. Dragons were a tree to the shrub they were, carelessly throwing magic around like confetti. I don't think they do that.
Not really, but they could. But yeah, no.
Yeah. Why they had a smidge of magic in them was anyone's guess. I hate dragons, the sorceress hissed. Ripto rolled his eyes. I wouldn't have guessed. Thanks for filling me in. Now go away. These are my lands now, Runt. The sorceress glared at him darkly. You should be the one leaving. Ripto snored as he looked around the bare, lava-stricken domain as he was currently in. Lava was a natural sight for dinosaurs, but it was nothing spectacular. A little bit of home, but that was about it. What she meant was that these places were the only kind she and her minions could dwell on without being bothering heroic dragons anymore. He crossed his arms and huffed to himself, glaring at the lava nearby. You know, I'd love if all the dragons just disappeared. I tried that once. I only made things worse. Ripto allowed a small amount of cresting into his glaring look. She gave a sneer-like smirk. When she didn't explain, he shook his head and began storming away. He was about to turn the corner in the canyon before he looked back at the blue female and shorted, I'll be the first to destroy them all. Mark my words, warthog. Her furious shout followed as he stormed in. I'll take that as a bet, you runty little pipstreak of a dinosaur. Whatever the outcome, maybe at least one of them would pull the dragons down a peg. Ah, no! Okay, let's just say lack of magic was the best out of... Yeah, it was the best out of the What If writer. Once again, same spelling mistakes as the first two, but yeah.
Yeah, still pretty good.
I mean, it was kind of funny, like having Ripto and the sorceress yell at each other.
Yeah.
And funny thing is, nowadays, this guy shares the same sentiment as I do. We both don't like Ripto X Sorceress.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think they would fight if they actually met each other in real life. I mean,
just like what happened. Yeah. I would assume they would fight too.
Yeah, and the difference is, I think, I wonder if Bianca was trying to get to Ripto first. I guess that wouldn't have worked because Forgotten Worlds and stuff.
True. Yeah. They are indifferent. She probably wouldn't have even known about him. Possibly.
And so that ends our Let's Read. Thank you for your time, and sorry for wasting 55 minutes of your day.